You've been chasing money your entire life, working harder, hustling more, grinding until you collapse. And yet somehow, the more desperately you reach for wealth, the further it slips away. What if the very act of trying is what's keeping you broke? Alan Watts understood something about money that most people will never grasp. He called it the backwards law. The harder you chase, the faster it runs. Today, we're going to unpack why everything you've been taught about getting rich is not just wrong. It's the very thing sabotaging your financial future. And more importantly, what happens when you finally stop trying? The backwards law. Alan Watts spent decades studying Eastern philosophy and discovered something that Western culture refuses to accept. He called it the backwards law. The idea is devastatingly simple. The more you pursue feeling better all the time, the less satisfied you become. As Watts himself put it, muddy water is best cleared by leaving it alone. Now apply this to money. The person who desperately needs to be rich radiates that desperation in everything they do. Every decision comes from a place of lack. Every interaction screams, "Please give me something." And people can feel it. Wealthy individuals and opportunities instinctively pull away from that energy. Think about the times in your life when you stopped caring so much about an outcome. Maybe a job interview where you genuinely didn't need it. Maybe a relationship where you were truly content being alone. Suddenly, paradoxically, that's when things started flowing to you. Watts wasn't telling you to stop wanting things. He was exposing the difference between desire and desperate attachment. But here's where it gets even more interesting. The money game. Watts had a radical view of money that would make most financial advisors uncomfortable. He saw it for exactly what it is: a game, a collective agreement, a dance of numbers that we've all decided to take far too seriously. Money is an abstraction. It cannot of itself buy any pleasure whatsoever. Here's what he meant. You don't actually want money. You want what you think money will give you: security, freedom, respect, love. But those are feelings, and you cannot purchase feelings, only temporary circumstances that might trigger them. The person who makes $50,000 and feels abundant is richer than the millionaire who constantly fears losing it all. Feeling creates reality. This isn't just philosophy. Neuroscience confirms that your brain cannot distinguish between vividly imagined wealth and actual wealth in terms of the emotional response it generates. So what are you really chasing? If this is making you question your entire approach to money, hit like and subscribe to reprogram more of these blocks, because what comes next changes everything about how you see success. Effort addiction. Society has sold you a dangerous lie. The lie that your worth is measured by your effort, that struggling proves you deserve success, that if you're not exhausted, you're not trying hard enough. Watts saw this for what it truly is: an addiction to suffering disguised as virtue. You've been programmed to believe that ease equals laziness. But look at nature. Does a tree strain to grow? Does a river struggle to flow downhill? Does your heart labor to beat? The most powerful forces in the universe operate effortlessly. Yet here you are, wearing your burnout like a badge of honor, posting about your grind, glorifying your exhaustion, and wondering why you're still broke despite all that sacrifice. The wealthy understand something you don't. Hard work without alignment is just organized suffering. They work from inspiration, not desperation, from overflow, not emptiness, from clarity, not confusion. The question isn't how hard are you working. The question is, why does it feel so hard? And that leads us to perhaps the most uncomfortable truth of all: the wanting trap. Watts identified something he called the wanting trap. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. You cannot attain the experience of a rich life by wanting it. Here's why. The act of wanting contains within it the acknowledgement that you don't have. Every time you affirm, "I want to be rich," you're simultaneously affirming, "I am not rich." Your subconscious doesn't hear your goals. It hears your current state of lack, and it dutifully recreates more of that lack in your reality. Wanting creates wanting. Watch wealthy people sometime. Really watch them. They don't spend their days wanting money. They spend their days being engaged, creating, solving problems, connecting with others. Money flows to them as a byproduct of who they're being, not what they're chasing. The broke mindset thinks get money, then feel wealthy. The wealthy mindset operates in reverse. Feel wealthy first and watch what follows. It sounds backwards because it is. That's the whole point. Speaking of what wealthy people understand that most miss entirely. Present moment. One of Watt's most powerful teachings was about time itself. Specifically, how we sacrifice our entire lives for futures that never arrive. Think about it. When you were 20, you told yourself you'd be happy when you got that job. When you got the job, happiness moved to when you got promoted. Then to when you bought the house. Then to when you paid off the house. The goalpost never stops moving because the future is an illusion. Now, that's all that exists. This is the real secret of life. To be completely engaged with what you are doing in the here and now. The wealthy don't live for retirement. They craft lives they don't need vacations from. They find meaning in Monday, not just Friday. They understand that wealth hoarded for some imaginary tomorrow is poverty disguised as planning. If you cannot enjoy the process, you will never enjoy the prize. Because even when you get the prize, you'll immediately start wanting the next one. The cycle never ends unless you end it, here and now, in this moment, not someday. But there's something even deeper blocking most people. Identity prison. Here's something Watts understood that most self-help completely ignores. You cannot outperform your identity. Your self-image is a prison you built without knowing it. If deep down you see yourself as someone who struggles with money, you will unconsciously sabotage every opportunity that threatens that identity, because your ego would rather be right than be rich. Watts often spoke about how we confuse ourselves with our life story. You're not actually someone who's bad with money. You're someone who has played that role so long you forgot you were acting. Story is not self. The millionaire who goes bankrupt usually becomes a millionaire again. The person who wins the lottery usually returns to poverty. Why? Because circumstances temporarily changed, but identity didn't. As Watts brilliantly observed, trying to define yourself is like trying to bite your own teeth. You are not your thoughts about yourself. You are not your past financial failures. You are the awareness that can choose to play a completely different role starting right now. But choosing that role requires understanding something crucial. Trust the river. Watts used a powerful metaphor that transforms how you approach wealth. Life, he said, is like a river. You can either fight the current, exhausting yourself trying to force a specific destination, or you can trust the flow, keep your eyes open, and navigate wisely. The only way to make sense out of change is to plunge into it, move with it, and join the dance. Most people approach money like they're trying to swim upstream. They pick arbitrary goals. They fight against their natural talents. They force themselves into careers that drain their souls. And they wonder why progress feels like torture. The river knows where to go if you stop fighting it. This doesn't mean being passive. A skilled kayaker isn't passive. They read the water. They respond to changes. They use the current's power instead of opposing it. The question becomes, what is your river? What would you do even if you weren't paid? What problems do you naturally solve? Where does your attention flow without effort? That's where your wealth lives. And here's how to actually access it. Creative giving. Here's where Watts' philosophy meets practical wealth building. He understood that money flows toward value creation, not value extraction. Give first, receive later. The person trying to get rich is focused on taking from the world. The person who becomes rich is focused on what they can give to the world. These are fundamentally different orientations that produce radically different results. Watts spoke often about genuine interest versus interested motives. When you try to stay on the surface of the water, you sink. But when you try to sink, you float. When you approach people genuinely curious about how you can help them, they feel it. When you approach them calculating what you can extract, they feel that too. Your energy precedes your words. Every wealthy person I've studied obsessively asked one question. What problem can I solve that people will gladly pay for? Not how can I make money, not what's the fastest path to riches, but what can I contribute? The money followed the contribution. Always. It cannot work the other way around. But here's the deeper level most people miss. Detached action. This is perhaps the most misunderstood aspect of what Watts taught. People hear stop trying and think he meant stop doing. Not even close. What he advocated was detached action, doing without obsessive attachment to outcomes, working without your identity being hostage to results, maximum effort with minimum attachment. Think about the best moments of your life, the times you were in flow, completely absorbed in the activity itself, not thinking about what you'd get from it, not anxious about whether it would work out, just fully present and engaged. That state of detached engagement is where your best work happens, where creativity flows, where opportunities seem to materialize from nowhere. 1. Set your direction clearly. 2. Take action from inspiration. 3. Release attachment to timing. 4. Trust the unfolding process. The Bhagavad Gita, which Watts studied extensively, calls this karma yoga, the discipline of action without attachment to fruits. You are entitled to your labor, but not the fruits of your labor. Do the work because the work is meaningful. Let results take care of themselves. But this requires something even more fundamental, the great let go. Everything we've discussed leads to this final insight, the great let go, release. What would happen if you actually stopped trying to get rich, not stopped working, not stopped creating, not stopped contributing, but stopped the desperate, grasping, white-knuckle grip on specific outcomes? Watts observed something remarkable. The moment you genuinely let go, something shifts. Not as a technique to get what you want. Real letting go, not strategic letting go. When you actually surrender the need for wealth to validate your existence, you become magnetically attractive to opportunities, because you're no longer operating from desperation. You're operating from completeness. You are a function of what the whole universe is doing, in the same way that a wave is a function of what the whole ocean is doing. You are not separate from the abundance of the universe. You never were. The struggle was only in your mind, and it can end today. Stop trying, start being, and watch what happens. Let go, receive all. Alan Watts didn't teach us to abandon ambition. He taught us to abandon the suffering we've attached to it. The backwards law isn't a curse. It's a liberation. When you stop trying to prove yourself, you finally become yourself. Everything you've chased your whole life has been running from you because you were chasing it. The money, the success, the recognition, they were never running towards some finish line. They were running away from your desperation. Now you know the secret. Stop trying doesn't mean stop doing. It means stop suffering over outcomes you cannot control. It means do the work, release the result. It means trust that you are already connected to infinite abundance, and your only job is to stop blocking it. If you made it this far, comment surrendered if you're ready to stop fighting the river and start flowing with it. Your mind is either programmed for wealth or poverty. Now you know how to reprogram it. If this video exposed something in you, subscribe. There's more to uncover. Share this with someone drowning in hustle culture who needs to hear the uncomfortable truth.